The earth below is a silent, sleeping giant, shrouded in a starless Serbian night. But in this absolute darkness, a man-made predator glides. The F-117 Nighthawk, call sign Gray Ghost 11, is a collection of sharp, black angles, a void that swallows light and radar waves. Inside the cockpit, the green glow of instruments illuminates the face of Major Elijah Kane. His hands are steady, his breathing calm. He is a patriot, a man who once believed in the clean lines of duty and honor. But that man is gone. Before takeoff, seated in the stark isolation of his ready room, Elijah Kane did not review mission parameters. Instead, he stared at the personal tablet on his knee. The screen showed a photograph of a young girl with his eyes, laughing in a sun-drenched backyard. His daughter. His finger hovered, and then, with a slow, final swipe, he erased the image. The screen went black. That single silent act was the real point of no return. The official mission in his file was a lie. His true target lay to the northeast, in Belarus, where a man called Beacon promised him a chance to atone, to leak the stealth technology and break the cycle of a war machine he now saw as corrupt. The F-117 was not just an aircraft. It was his confession, his indictment, and his ransom. Half a world away, the sun glared off the mirrored windows of the Central Intelligence Agency. In a sterile sub-level room, analyst Rachel Sandoval lived in a different kind of night, one of data streams and digital ghosts. Her focus was absolute. A routine algorithm had flagged a minor anomaly, a cash withdrawal from a bank in Vienna, linked to an Air Force officer. It was small, almost insignificant, but it nagged at her. It felt like a single wrong note in a symphony. Driven by an instinct she had learned to trust, she began a deeper, unauthorized dive. She bypassed 2 security protocols to access a raw signals intelligence feed. And she found it. A series of encrypted bursts, short and cold, between a terminal near the officer's base and a location in Eastern Europe. The recipient's codename was Beacon, an old KGB term, a handler. The officer's file appeared on her screen. Major Elijah Kane, F-117 pilot, hero. 100 miles off his official course, Elijah Kane reached for the panel to disable his primary transponder. At that exact moment, a shrill mechanical scream erupted in his cockpit. The radar warning receiver. Lock on. His blood turned to ice. It wasn't Serbian air defense. The signal was friendly. A NATO station on the Hungarian border had painted him. For 5 endless seconds, he was trapped in the electronic crosshairs of his own side, a ghost visible for a fleeting moment. He could imagine the confused operator below, seeing the impossible blip. One nervous finger on a button, and he would be vaporized. He didn't breathe. Then, the signal vanished. He had slipped back into the darkness. Heart hammering against his ribs, he executed the command. The transponder died. Gray Ghost 11 vanished completely from the Allied grid. In Langley, Rachel Sandoval's fingers flew across the keyboard. The financial anomaly, the codename Beacon, the off-course flight path, it was all circumstantial. She needed proof. She made a decision that would end her career if discovered. Using a backdoor access code she wasn't supposed to have, she patched into the real-time tracking feed of a keyhole satellite. She typed the call sign, Gray Ghost 11. The main screen showed the official NATO track. The signal was lost, presumed crashed. But on her private, illicit feed, a different story unfolded. A lone, pulsing icon of the F-117 was not falling. It was moving fast and steady, on a direct bearing for the Belarusian border. Her breath caught in her throat. This wasn't a shoot-down. This was a defection. At that moment, a red security alert flashed on the corner of her main monitor. Unauthorized access to classified stream. Sandoval, R. They knew. She stared at the satellite feed, at the betraying icon of the F-117. She was now the only person outside the conspiracy who knew the devastating truth. And the system, the very machine she served, had just identified her as a threat. The hunt for the ghost had begun, and she had just become the next target. The sterile light of the CIA facility felt different to Rachel now. It was no longer an illumination for work, but an interrogation lamp. The security alert blinked on her screen, a silent digital heartbeat counting down the seconds until her professional demise. With a surge of adrenaline that turned her fingers cold, she didn't panic. She acted. Her hands moved with a precise, frantic speed. She executed a pre-written script, scrubbing her terminal's volatile memory and disconnecting the unauthorized satellite link. The damning feed vanished. But she had already committed the crucial data to memory. The heading, the speed, the F-117's undeniable trajectory towards Belarus. She was no longer an analyst. She was a conspirator against her own agency, holding a secret that could shatter American military prestige. In the skies over Eastern Europe, Elijah Kane existed in a state of hyper-aware silence. The adrenaline from the lock-on warning had faded, replaced by a cold, metallic focus. He follows the prearranged flight path, a ghost navigating by stars and stolen coordinates. He thinks of the photograph he erased, not with sadness, but with a grim, painful necessity. He is doing this for her, for a world where the weapons he flies aren't used to create orphans. Below, the terrain changes, becoming more forested and unfamiliar. He is deep in the belly of the beast now, far from any friendly rescue. His only companion is the steady hum of the engines and the ghost of his own doubt, whispering that he has traded one master for another. Back at the Combined Air Operations Center, the mood has shifted from panic to a controlled official narrative. The public affairs officers have already drafted the press release. A U.S. F-117 Nighthawk is missing over Serbia, presumed lost to enemy action. The pilot, Major Elijah Kane, is a hero. The story is being woven, a blanket of lies to cover the ugly truth. Rachel watches this machinery spin up from her terminal, feeling a profound sense of dislocation. She is inside the system, but now sees the cogs and gears of the lie. Her immediate superior, a careerist named David Moss, stops by her desk. His tone is light, almost congratulatory. "Tough break, Sandoval, but we got the culprit. A new Serbian SAM battery. The intel is solid." He is selling the lie, and he expects her to buy it. She nods, her face a mask of professional composure, but her mind is screaming. The solid intel is a fabrication, and she has the proof burning a hole in her conscience. Driven by a moral imperative she can no longer suppress, Rachel descends deeper into the digital underworld. She uses a different, more secure terminal in a forgotten data library, a place off the main grid. She is no longer looking for evidence of Kane's defection. She is looking for evidence of the cover-up. And she finds it. Buried in a logistics server, she discovers a series of encrypted communications between a CIA front company and a shadowy private military corporation known as Aegis Consortium, with deep, ambiguous ties to Eastern European intelligence. The communications are time-stamped days before Kane's flight. They discuss logistical support for a high-value asset acquisition and contingency planning for an aviation incident. The pieces snapped together with terrifying force. This wasn't just a defection the CIA failed to stop. They knew. They facilitated it. Kane wasn't just a traitor. He was a pawn in a much larger, more cynical game. Her personal cell phone, a cheap burner she keeps for emergencies, vibrates with an unknown number. A text message appears, stark and simple. They know you looked. The beacon is extinguished. You are not safe. The message sears into her retinas. Before the phone goes permanently dead, its signal killed remotely. This is not a security alert. This is a death threat. They are not just covering up a defection, they are sanitizing the operation, tying up loose ends. She is a loose end. In a dimly lit hangar on a derelict airfield in rural Belarus, the F-117 Nighthawk, a creature of pure American night, rests its strange, angular wings on foreign soil. Elijah Kane is greeted not by Belarusian military officials, but by a group of men in unmarked tactical gear. Their leader, a man with cold eyes and a professional smile, introduces himself as a representative of the Aegis Consortium. He praises Kane's courage, his skill. But as the man speaks, his men begin their work, not with the reverence due to a defector, but with the efficiency of mechanics stripping a valuable machine. They attach data ports to the aircraft's fuselage, their movements swift and proprietary. Kane's vision of a grand, ideological exposure evaporates. He is not a guest. He is a delivery man. And the package he brought is being unwrapped before his eyes, its secrets siphoned into the servers of a private, unaccountable corporation. The grim reality of his choice settles upon him like a physical weight. He has not escaped the machine. He has simply delivered a crucial component to a different, perhaps even more dangerous one. The dead burner phone in Rachel's hand feels like a tombstone. The warning, "The beacon is extinguished," echoes in her mind. It means her source, her only link to the truth, has been eliminated. She is exposed. The sterile corridors of the CIA are no longer a workplace. They are a hunting ground. And she is the prey. She can feel the invisible pressure closing in, the subtle shift in a colleague's gaze, the unusual silence from her superior, David Moss. Acting on pure survival instinct, she doesn't return to her desk. She goes to the women's restroom, locks herself in a stall, and uses a second, more secure encrypted device. She accesses a private, off-the-books cloud server, a digital dead drop. She uploads every piece of evidence she has: the financial trail, the beacon communiques, the satellite track, the Aegis Consortium files. She attaches a single terse message: "If I am compromised, release this to the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists." This is her insurance policy. She is no longer just hiding. She is setting a trap for her hunters. In the bleak Belarusian hangar, Elijah Kane watches his aircraft being dissected. The Aegis Consortium technicians, with their cold efficiency, have peeled back access panels, their actions speaking not of scientific curiosity, but of ownership. The man who greeted him, the one with the cold eyes named Stoller, now speaks to him with a different tone. The respectful facade has crumbled, replaced by the casual authority of a warden. "Your expertise will be required for the system deep dive, Major," Stoller says, his smile not reaching his eyes. "The Belarusians are getting restless. They want a demonstration. You will provide it." Kane understands now. He is not a defector. He is a technical manual with a pulse. His dream of atonement has curdled into a nightmare of complicity. He is to become the instructor for a new generation of invisible threats. The full, crushing weight of his miscalculation settles on him. He traded one cage for another, but this new one has no pretense of freedom or ideals. Back in Virginia, Rachel makes a desperate, calculated gamble. She knows she cannot trust her chain of command. But there is one man, Alden Peter, a legendary and feared gray cardinal in the Directorate of Operations. He is a man who operates in the shadows, a master of the cynical game. He is also David Moss's direct superior. Requesting a meeting with him is professional suicide, an admission that she is operating far outside her lane. She walks into his anteroom, a space adorned with artifacts of Cold Wars past. Peter is a man in his 60s, with the calm, assessing eyes of a predator. He doesn't invite her to sit. "You've been digging in places that have made a lot of people nervous, Miss Sandoval," he says, his voice a low rumble. "You think you've uncovered a conspiracy." Rachel stands her ground, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "I know Kane was allowed to defect. I know about Aegis Consortium. This wasn't a failure. It was a deliberate act." Alden Peter studies her for a long, silent moment. Then he does something unexpected. He smiles, a thin, humorless line. "Allowed? Miss Sandoval, we didn't allow it. We orchestrated it." He reveals the breathtaking truth. The F-117 was a Trojan horse. For years, Aegis Consortium, a deniable proxy for hostile states, had been trying to steal stealth technology. The agency, instead of stopping them, decided to feed them a poisoned apple. The specific F-117 Kane took was a unique variant, its core software laced with a sophisticated sleeper malware package, designed to corrupt and destroy all data extracted from it upon a remote signal. "Kane wasn't a pawn for Aegis," Peter states coldly. "He was our pawn. He was the delivery system, and your little unauthorized satellite adventure nearly triggered the malware protocol prematurely. You almost blew a 2-year operation to hell." The revelation hits Rachel like a physical blow. The moral clarity of her mission shatters. Kane isn't just a traitor. He's an unwitting asset in a cynical high-stakes gambit. His life, his reasons, are irrelevant to the men in this room. He is a disposable component. Peter's gaze hardens. "The operation is back on track. You will stand down. You will forget everything you've seen. That is not a request." He turns his back, dismissing her. She has been outplayed. But as she stumbles out, a new, more terrifying thought emerges. If the CIA wanted the plane to be taken, then the cover-up wasn't to hide a shameful defection. It was to hide an active, reckless intelligence operation. And disposable assets are usually disposed of. Kane will be killed once his usefulness ends. And she, knowing the truth, has just made herself a liability on the same list. In his makeshift quarters, a locked room adjacent to the hangar, Elijah Kane is presented with a gift from Stoller, a tablet with a curated, limited news feed. It's a psychological tactic to show him he is now a pariah in his homeland. He sees the official story. Hero pilot Major Kane lost in combat. He sees the memorials. And then, buried in a sidebar, he sees a secondary, smaller headline from a European news agency. CIA analyst under internal investigation for data breach. There is no name, but there is a grainy, low-resolution photo from an old ID badge. It's the woman from the file Aegis had shown him as a potential threat, the one who had tried to track him. Rachel Sandoval. He sees the same hunted look in her eyes that he feels in his own soul. Two pawns, on opposite sides of the board, both realizing They are trapped in the same game. He stares at her picture, a flicker of a new, desperate plan forming in his mind. The only way out of this is to change the rules. And to do that, he needs an ally on the inside. The walls of Alden Peters' office felt like they were still closing in on Rachel as she walked away. His revelation was a vortex, sucking in all her certainty. Kane was a pawn. The defection was a scheme. Her pursuit had been a nuisance. The moral world she thought she inhabited was a lie, a convenient fiction for those who played games with human lives and global stability. She couldn't stand down. To do so was to sign Kane's death warrant and her own, eventually. But she was now isolated, her every move likely monitored. She had to move from defense to offense, using the only weapon she had left, the truth she wasn't supposed to possess. Her mind raced back to the Aegis Consortium files. They weren't just a military contractor. They were a hub, a clearinghouse for stolen technology. Their weakness wasn't their security, but their greed. They would have to move the data. She accessed a buried legacy system at the NSA, a network traffic analyzer that monitored global satellite data bursts. It was a needle in a haystack, but she knew the approximate digital signature of the F-117's core avionics data. She set the parameters and let the algorithm run, a silent digital hunter, waiting for its prey to break cover. In the Belarusian hangar, Elijah Kane was performing his own act of rebellion. Under the watchful eyes of Stoller and his technicians, he was forced to explain the Nighthawk's systems. But he began to lie. He described non-critical backup systems as primary flight controls. He invented software quirks that didn't exist, creating a labyrinth of misinformation. It was a delaying tactic, a way to sow confusion and buy time. During a break, he was left alone for a moment near a terminal the technicians used. It had heavily restricted access, but its internal messaging system was open. It was a slim chance, a message in a bottle tossed into a hostile ocean. He typed quickly, his body shielding the screen. He used Rachel Sandoval's name, a keyword he hoped would trigger any alert she might have set. The message was stark. Aegis is moving the data. They are not the final buyer. They are a middleman for a state actor. The demonstration is a transfer. Stop the signal, or it goes global. Find me. He entered a string of characters, the unique identifier for the aircraft's internal network node. It was a digital breadcrumb. He hit send just as a technician returned, his heart pounding against his ribs. Across the world, Rachel's monitor chimed. The NSA tracker had found it. A massive, encrypted data burst, originating from the Belarusian region, was scheduled for a specific time slot, piggybacking on a commercial satellite feed. It was the transfer. At the same moment, a separate alert flashed, a keyword trigger from a low-priority intelligence feed she had set up days ago. Sandoval. She opened it. Kane's message was there, a desperate plea from the void. It confirmed everything. This wasn't just about stealing technology. It was about weaponizing it on a global scale. And he had given her a key, the node identifier. It was an invitation, a partnership. This changed everything. She wasn't saving a traitor. She was recruiting an asset. He was inside the belly of the beast. She accessed the Trojan horse protocol, sleeper circuit, that Alden Peter had so arrogantly revealed. But she saw its flaw. It was designed to be triggered by the CIA, a centralized command. Aegis would be expecting that. They would have countermeasures. A brute force attack would fail. But Kane's node identifier offered another path. a surgical strike. If she could use that node as a backdoor, she could inject a more subtle, destructive command, not just corrupt the data, but turn the F-117 systems into a weapon against itself, triggering a cascade failure that would look like a catastrophic systems meltdown, destroying the hardware and the data simultaneously. It was a long shot. It required her to rewrite the malware in hours, and it required Kane, on his end, to create a physical connection to that node at the precise moment of the transfer. She typed a reply to his node, a single coded data packet hidden within a system log entry. Consent to Operation Phoenix. Stand by for package. Connection must be established at T-0. We'll burn the bird to save the nest. She was asking him to help her destroy the very aircraft he had sacrificed everything for. She was asking him to become a saboteur. Elijah Kane received the message on a technician's tablet he had briefly borrowed. He read her words. Burn the bird to save the nest. He looked at the F-117, the embodiment of his skill, his sin, and his prison. Destroying it was the only true atonement left. It was the only way to break the cycle. He typed one word in reply, a message that traveled from a derelict hangar in Belarus to a locked server room in Virginia. Consent. In Langley, Alden Peter watched the operations status board. The data transfer was proceeding. The Trojan horse was armed. He was satisfied. He turned to an aide. Once the transfer is complete and the malware has executed, sanitize the location. The asset Kane is deniable. The analyst Sandoval has become a liability. Prepare the termination orders. The game in his mind was nearing its end. He did not know that his two pawns had just joined the board together and were about to change the game entirely. The final act begins not with a bang, but with the silent, digital countdown of a satellite clock. In her clandestine server nest, Rachel Sandoval's world has shrunk to lines of code on a screen. The sleeper circuit protocol is open before her, but she is not using it as intended. Alden Peter's plan is a sledgehammer. Hers must be a scalpel. She works furiously, rewriting the malware. Her new code, dubbed Phoenix, is a virus of beautiful, destructive elegance. It won't just corrupt data. It will command the F-117's flight computers to overstress the airframe, to sabotage the hydraulic systems, to turn the stealth fighter into a suicide bomb that will tear itself apart from the inside. It is the only way to be sure. She uploads the Phoenix package, a digital ghost, waiting for its moment to possess the machine. In the cold hangar, the atmosphere is electric. A delegation of high-level buyers, stern men in sharp suits from a hostile nation-state, has arrived. Stoller is all smiles now, the gracious host. The demonstration is no longer a technical check. It is a sales pitch. The F-117 is to be powered up, its systems showcased, and the encrypted data stream transmitted live to the buyer's satellite. Elijah Kane is positioned near the cockpit, his role to perform like a trained SEAL. His eyes constantly flick to a specific access panel on the fuselage, the physical port for the internal network node he had identified to Rachel. It is his only target. The countdown to transmission is audible now, a technician calling out the minutes. Kane's body is coiled tight, a spring waiting to be released. Rachel initiates the sequence. Her fingers fly across the keyboard, launching the Phoenix virus through the back door of the satellite link. On her screen, a progress bar appears. Uploading, 10%. It is agonizingly slow. At that moment, the door to the server room bursts open. David Moss stands there, flanked by two security officers. His face is a mask of cold fury. Rachel Sandoval, you are in direct violation of the National Security Act. Step away from the terminal. She doesn't look up. You're too late, David. The truth is already gone. It's in a dead man's switch. If I don't enter a code every 10 minutes from now, everything goes public. It's a bluff, but a convincing one. Moss freezes, calculating the risk. The officers hesitate. 75%, she says, her voice eerily calm, her eyes locked on the screen. She is playing a high-stakes game of chicken with the entire agency. In the hangar, the lead buyer nods. Begin the transfer. A massive progress bar lights up a main screen. Data stream initiated. This is it. Stoller gestures for Kane to enter the cockpit. It's the moment Kane has been waiting for. As he moves, he feigns a stumble, crashing heavily into the technician, standing by the critical access panel. In the confusion, his fingers, practiced and precise, unsnap the panel cover. He yanks a diagnostic cable from a nearby cart and jams it into the exposed port. The connection is made. A small secondary indicator on the main console, one the Aegis technicians don't recognize, blinks from red to green. On Rachel's screen, the Phoenix upload bar hits 100%. Package delivered. Awaiting execution signal. She has one shot. She slams her palm down on the enter key. Inside the F-117, chaos erupts. The virus activates. Control surfaces flap wildly and erratically. The hydraulic systems whine in a shrieking metal-on-metal protest. Alarms blare through the cockpit. The main data stream screen flickers and dies, replaced by a cascade of system failure warnings. "What is happening?" Stoller screams, his cool facade shattered. The buyers step back, their faces dark with suspicion and anger. Kane doesn't hesitate. He uses the pandemonium, shoving a guard aside and sprinting from the hangar into the dim twilight of the airfield. Behind him, the sound of the F-117 tearing itself apart is a symphony of destruction, a sharp crack of composite materials, the groan of twisting metal. The world's most advanced aircraft is committing suicide. Rachel sees the confirmation on her screen. Phoenix protocol executed. Target destroyed. She slumps in her chair. It is over. Moss and the security officers stare at her, the sound of the alarms in their own facility a fitting requiem. Alden Peter arrives, his face pale with a rage he cannot contain. He knows he has been defeated. The asset is gone. The technology is destroyed. The only loose end is the analyst who outplayed him. Weeks later, the official story stands, carved in stone for history. The F-117, a marvel of American engineering, was lost in combat. Major Elijah Kane died a hero's death. In a small cafe in a neutral country, Rachel Sandoval, now a ghost herself, sips a coffee and watches the rain. She is no longer an analyst. She is a keeper of secrets. A single encrypted message arrives on a clean device. It contains no text, only a photograph. A grainy, long-lens image of a man with tired but calm eyes, standing on a pier overlooking a vast ocean. It is Elijah Kane. He had survived his escape into the Belarusian woods, his fate as fabricated as his death. They are both free, but their freedom is built on the foundation of a buried truth. They know the real cost of invisibility and the heavy, silent price of a victory no one will ever celebrate. The world sees a myth. They live with the truth.